Welcome back to have us working on our rocket. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working on what I think might be one of the more important pieces is this green engine block. So this green ring is going to be our engine block, and we're going to use that here today. So I have our parts that we're going to be using. I have them out here available for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through these instructions. That way we have an understanding of what it is that we're doing. As I open up the instructions, I can see down here the instructions for this engine block. So this is where we're going to be following, where we're going to get this yellow tube. It's going to be known as our spacer. We get our spacer, and we're going to make a mark that's 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters on it. After that, the step 2, we're going to get some glue, and we're going to get some glue about 2 centimeters up the tube here, up the fuselage here. And the way we do that is we get a little bit of glue on the stick. We stick this into the tube here. Don't touch the sides. Don't touch the sides. Don't touch the sides. And then once you're into a certain height, that's when you touch the sides. You have it go around and around, and then you take this out. And I'll show more when I show how I'm doing my step 2. Then getting to step 3, that's where we put in the engine block. The glue is already in there. Then we put in the engine block with the engine block in. Then we push the engine block down with the yellow tube. And then we bring it up to this mark, the mark that we made here in step 1, 1/4 inch. Then step 5, we remove the yellow tube. And then the green engine block should be drying in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through and I'm going to show us how we can get to this. So I'm going to make my step 1 where I'm marking up that yellow tube. So when I'm marking the yellow tube, I want to mark it at that 1/4 inch mark. Now I have a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, I understand. But I'm going to make a mark on the 1/4 inch. If I have my ruler, I have a 1/2 inch and then a 1/4 inch. And so I'm going to set this here as a 1/4 inch mark. Now, the reason why I'm making this a 1/4 inch mark is because when we push that green engine block up, we're going to push it to this part here, and then we're going to pull this out and the green engine block will be in there. But when we get our dynamite, which is going to be the rocket engine, we're going to put that rocket engine in so that way it's hanging out by this much. If the rocket engine is inside of the rocket, then when it burns, it's going to burn up your rocket, and that's not a rocket, that's a fire. If it's outside like this, then the center of mass of the rocket is off, and what could happen is then as it begins to start to take off, this starts to wobble, then the rocket engine falls out, this falls down to the ground, and then this is not doing anything interesting. It's just fire. So we want to get it to a part where we have it hanging out a little bit. So that's why it says a 1/4 inch. Now, in most years, I would say, yeah, try to make it as precise as you can. But when I'm this year, I understand. Try as best you can. You want to have it so that way the yellow tube is going to be hanging out, not all the way in, definitely not all the way out. The majority of it should be inside the tube. So I made my mark at a 1/4 inch. Now I'm on to step 2. So this is where I want something that can fit inside of this tube. And so I'm going to be able to fit this here. The thing I broke off of my fins, I'm going to be able to fit this inside of the fuselage. And what I want to try to do is I want to put some glue 2 inches up or 5 centimeters. So I have this here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, and I have this as my 0. And this is my 2 centimeters or 2 inches rather. With my 2 inches mark, now I have a mark on this balsa wood. And if you have this similar piece, you can sort of see where the 2 inch mark is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a liberal amount of glue down here at this tip. When I place a liberal amount of glue, then I'm going to take this and insert it into the tube, and I'm not going to touch the sides. As I bring this inside the tube, I'm not going to touch the sides. I'm not going to touch the sides. I'm not touching the sides. I'm not touching the sides. And then once I get to my mark, once I have that mark lined up, then I touch the side and I rotate to get the glue onto my wall. I can get the glue onto the wall of my rocket now, and it should work really well. You could even make it so that way you get more glue into an area. So I am just making it a smaller area here as well. And so that's what I'm going to do in order to get to step 2. I'm going to place a liberal amount of glue. What I mean by liberal, I'm not saying political affiliations. I'm saying too much. So I'm placing a liberal amount of glue. In other words, it's too much glue. As I have this liberal amount of glue, I'm now going to bring it inside of my tube. Rotate my tube, the fuselage, and then bring this back out. I see that the glue is off of my stick, and I check inside my tube and I see that the glue is forming at the point where I wanted it to form. I could, if I wanted to, go a little bit more. I don't know if I went liberal enough on the glue. I could even go a little bit more and add a little bit more here because I do want a liberal amount of glue. I want this piece to stay right where it is if you're using the school glue. If you're using Gorilla Glue or fancy glue, then the same requirement might not be needed. So now I have the step 2 where the glue is only at that 2 centimeter mark. I don't have it in between. I don't have it in between. It's only at the 2-inch mark or 5 centimeters. Now for the step 3, I'm going to insert the green ring. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take the yellow tube. I'm going to insert my yellow tube, the spacer. I'm going to insert it up to the mark. I can now feel the glue as I am beginning to push this. The glue should have been now within the ring. I'm going to get it to this mark, not push it any further. If I push it past, now the green ring is past it. Now, then I have to get my finger in or get a pencil in to drag it out and start over. I remove the yellow spacer, leaving just the rocket. I can look in. When I look in, I can see my green ring in there. You might have a hard time seeing it, but when I look in, I can see my green engine block. I let this dry, and then I move on to the next part.